Today, I want to show you why walking through neighborhoods can make you a better plant forager. Because, as unlikely as it sounds, neighborhoods are actually a great place to practice your plant identification skills, and I'm going to show you why. So, come along for a walk. It's a beautiful spring day, the sun is shining, very little cloud cover, and it's finally t shirt weather. What more can you ask for, right? Spring is one of my favorite times of the years, mostly because all this life is coming back to the plant kingdom specifically, and we have all this greenery. And with that also comes the opportunity to forage and bring home delicious wild edibles from the wild, or in this case, a subdivision. Now, the urban foraging movement, so foraging in cities and suburbs, has really exploded, it feels like, in the last couple of years. And that's probably partially due to just the access. It's a lot easier for people to forage in urban environments. Not everyone has mountains like I do here in front of the doorstep. And it's probably also due to the fact that a lot of wild edible plants actually thrive in these urban environments. If you're new to this whole foraging thing, you might be surprised to hear that, a neighborhood can provide all this food. But the more you'll forage, you'll realize that a lot of those things that people call weeds in their backyard are actually edible plants. A lot of these plants, especially like neighborhoods like this one, that has a lot of new builds, a lot of empty lots, a lot of disturbed soil and sun that can easily access the ground. However, even though you can find a lot of wild edibles in places like this in neighborhoods, I would, tread with caution. I usually don't harvest from places like this ever because the soil and just the area of being a neighborhood and being so close to civilization has a lot of pollutants, heavy metals, chemicals like pesticides, and a lot of plants are great at uptaking these chemicals, and you don't want that in your body from eating plants from an area like this. But I do still see a lot of value in coming to a place like this to forage because it's not really a place to harvest from, but I would look at it as a foraging classroom. This is the perfect place to hone those plant identification skills, to go out there and get into reps and really look at the plants over and over again and take them into your hands, see how they're developing throughout their life cycle, throughout the year, and just become really comfortable with them. All right, let's keep moving in the streets here and see what we can find. When I'm walking through neighborhoods, I really like to look in ditches first because I tend to find a lot of edible plants in those. And here we have our first edible plant, the salsify. In this particular ditch, there's actually a bunch of salsify growing. Oh, and look, we are not the only ones visiting this particular salsify plant. Salsify is one of my absolute favorite plants to go after in spring and summer. The whole plant is edible, and in the spring, my favorite parts to eat are the crown, which you cut right above the root, and then the roots themselves. The leaves of the salsify grow in a rosette, meaning they're coming from a singular point and growing in a circular arrangement. Many biennial plants will grow a rosette in the first year, then they will overwinter like this and send up a flower stalk the following year. Interestingly, growing in a rosette like this can protect the plant from some grazing pressure. At first sight, salsify kind of looks like grass, but in this clip here, you can see this is a salsify, and then I'm going to swing over here to a bushel of grass, and there's definitely some stark differences between the two. So one way to differentiate the salsify from grass is to pick a leaf blade, how I'm doing here. You'll notice the salsify has a very V-shaped leaf. Another factor I like to look for is this woolly material that tends to be toward the bottom of the leaf. Like I mentioned earlier, the roots are a great food source in the spring, so let's go and dig one up. So here you can see I exposed somewhat of the salsify root. I'm going to keep digging to show you what it actually looks like once it's fully removed from the dirt. So this is actually a pretty decent sized salsify for this area, and it's another reason why I like to look for plants and ID them in neighborhoods because they tend to grow a lot larger there from what I've noticed, and it's just always good to, really get a good ID and get a feel for these plants when you see good specimens. One more thing I want to show you while I have you here is that the salsify will have milky sap where you break it, kind of like dandelions, and the leaves will also have this milky sap. So any part of the salsify that you break will show it. Okay, let's see what else we can find. Now here's another plant that I always see on my neighborhood foraging walks. No idea what it is. Maybe you can help me identify it. Next up is a plant that I've been watching the last couple weeks, and I'm still learning about it. I've actually never eaten it, and that's dock, which we have right here. It's got pretty big leaves, and I know fellow foragers who go after it. And from what I've been learning about it, it's great as a spinach replacement or used as a soup herb. So when you're out here learning about a new plant in the neighborhoods, grab a leaf like I'm doing here and really move it between your hands and kind of get a feel for it and just, really meet the plant up close. Moving on. Okay, here we have another plant that I spotted, which actually grows all over disturbed areas here in Montana, and that's mullein. Mullein is also edible and a really cool plant. I like to call it the toilet paper plant, and I have used it as toilet paper in the backcountry. You can see the leaves have this really velvety, soft texture, and they are incredibly soft and just an awesome toilet paper replacement, better than any leaf out there. So the mullein is also a great example of a plant that likes to grow in a rosette, kind of like the salsify. So those are just a little similarities you'll even see out here between plants. Here's a dead flower stalk from mullein, which I like to look for because it makes them incredibly easy to find. All right, so there you have it. I could have probably found more wild edible plants out here if I had more time. There's a few I keep looking at that I'm not sure what they are. There's one that kind of looks like a mustard plant. If you know what it is, I'm gonna blend it in here real quick. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to learn from you as well. But I think we found enough plants to kind of drive home that point, which again is that you should not overlook these suburban areas if you're trying to become a better forager, because you might not want to harvest from here because of the pollutants like we talked about, but it's a great place to really practice those ID skills and once again, become familiar with some of those wild edible plants, the weeds that like to grow in this kind of area. And then from there, you can use those skills, those ID skills, to go find them in more remote places like the salsify, for example. I love looking for that up in the mountains where it's clean soil and no pollutants. All right, guys, I'm hungry. I'm going to head home, walk the dog quick, and then make some dinner. As always, don't forget to harvest that subscribe or follow button, hit that notification bell, like, comment, and share this video with a friend. Until next time.